Good morning, everyone. I'm Khang, and thank you very much for your excellent and informative presentation, Dr. Victoria Marshall. And on the behalf of the University of Economics, Ho Chi Minh City, I would like to extend my appreciation to Professor Kelly Shannon, Dr. Catherine, and the organizer for the excellent symposium today. And today I'm pleased to share my research topic about vernacular housing landscape in the Mekong Delta, and I hope you guys will enjoy it. Okay, I graduated from Ho Chi Minh City of Architecture in Vietnam, and I got the master and PhD degree in Japan. Just come back Vietnam last year, and besides the research, I also practice the environmental architecture, especially passive design, and I hope I can integrate the knowledge of the research into the practice to build the sustainable future. Okay, next. So as you know, for the context, we talk about identity a lot, and the context include two groups. First is the nature, that include the location, climate, and materials. And in the other groups, include human categorized. These groups include many factors, tradition, history, social economy, values, and ideology. And all of these elements combine and to create the identity of architecture. Okay. Here's, as you know, this is the map of the Mekong Delta in Vietnam. And the Vietnam Mekong Delta has a long history, more than 300 years, include 13 provinces, and they have many characteristics because they have the impressive 54,000 kilometers of waterways. And Vietnam also a country famous for the rice exportation, and it's famous for the multi-ethnic group architecture, include Vietnamese, Khmer, Chinese, and Cham Muslim. And this is the drawing I made it in 3 years. This is because I did a research about this area, and I recognize that this area have the 4 groups of Vietnamese, Khmer, the Cham, and Chinese. They have the long history, but they become disappearing because the impact of urbanization. And here you see the contrast between a traditional house and a concrete townhouse in the Mekong Delta. And when I go to the Mekong, I cannot realize the characteristic and the unique landscape of the province, because they impact a lot from the concrete house or the modern, they call the modern style from the Ho Chi Minh City. And in my research today, I will share the way I systematize and categorize the settlement formation and transformation of the traditional ethnic groups in the Mekong. And I will show and will focus a little about the Cham Muslim group, because this is the discovery in my research. And to do this research, I do a field work, and my data include more than 2,000 residential properties, and I make the drawings of 1,988 drawings with 151 drawing for the traditional housing. Okay, and I hope my research will contribute a new insight to the vernacular architecture in the Southeast Asia, and I hope I can contribute to add a new type of the Cham Muslim architecture in the map of the Muslim architecture. And as you know, in the chart show the population of the Mekong Delta. The Vietnamese occupies 92%, while Khmer and Chinese is lesser, and the Cham Muslim just occupy 0.09%. And based on the distribution of the population, I do some on-site survey through 13 provinces, and as you see in this chart, the Cham Muslim only stay in the border between Cambodia and Vietnam. The other ethnic groups like Khmer or Chinese, they just settle in some smaller province like Chà Vinh or Sóc Trăng, and Chinese basically they resettle in the Kiên Giang or Bạc Liêu. And this is the field work location I did in many years in the Mekong. I don't know, the qualities of the figures is decreased, I think so. I don't know. But I hope you can see this is maybe clearer than this one. Okay. First I will do talk about brief history and settling formation of the four ethnic groups, includes the Khmer, Vietnamese, Chinese, and the Cham Muslim. And as you know, since the 17th century, the ethnic combination of Vietnamese, the Khmer, and the Cham Muslim, they have the diverse cultural identities, religious, and the custom. Sorry. Here you see this Khmer group. They come to Vietnam to Mekong in the 15th and 16th century, and the Vietnamese is later in the 17th century, and the Chinese is around 1671 in many times, and they located near the water and the sea for the commercial purpose. And the Cham Muslim in the final group moved to the Mekong around 1750 and 51. Okay, here is the chronological chart of the immigration of the ethnic group to Mekong. And because this chart is very important for me, because before I do the research, I have a big question: who is the first group come to this place, and who is later? Because the first one can impact to the later one. But also, maybe the reverse, the reason maybe the later one can do some impact or even assimilation to the previous one. And because the time is not too much, so I will have a quick introduction for the settlement of the ethnic group. The first is the Khmer, because they is the first group come to the Mekong. You know, after the decline of the Oc-El culture between the 2nd and the 8th centuries, and the Mekong Delta become wide and flat region. And then the Khmer come to the Mekong in the end of the 15th and the early of 16th century, and the main livelihood of them is the rice cultivation. And they follow the Theravada Buddhism. That's why I put this religion informative, because the region impact a lot to architecture and even the urban landscape. Here's the section of the Khmer settlement. As you know, the Khmer always choose to settle down in the areas with the high levels, like the coastline or rich areas next to the river or the sea. And here the section I cut through in Travin province. As you see here, the pagoda, a cluster of pagoda here also, and vernacular housing always surrounding this area. But I quite disappointed because I cannot realize the grammar or the principle of the urban shape because they settle like no rules. And I used to hope to find a very good format or the remaining something of architecture in this area, but many years I cannot find. They just have very small house by coconut leaves or something. Okay. And for the settlements formation, the village they construct in the Khmer language, they construct, shrok means village, and the shrok have the pagodas in the between, in the center, and they include many forms, normally 5 or 6 forms surrounding. And for the housing, the grammar is very easy to understand. The first is the module, include a veranda, a living room, enter, bedroom, and kitchen. And then they extend into 2 compartments and 3 compartments. But the different point is only the Khmer group have 2 span in the horizontal axis because the Vietnamese, the Chinese have 3 or 5 or 7 compartments in comparison with the Khmer. Okay. And here some drawing I made in the field trip. And you see here the axonometric drawings of the 1 compartment, 2 and 3 compartment. It's quite simple. And the traditional Khmer steel house is not built with, to deal with the flooding, but that is their custom, their habit. And mostly the architecture is lost, completely lost, and replaced by the concrete house that copy from the Vietnamese style. And here is the drawings I made to summarize all of the observation I did with the support of the student and the pictures I take in the museum. And you see here the typical traditional house of the Khmer in the Mekong Delta, quite asymmetry with the veranda at the front, enter at the between, and the bedroom both sides, and the kitchen and storage at the back. And the general material I see is they use the coconut leaves to build the wall to separate, to deal with the harsh impacts from the weather. They just normally use coconut. The poor family, they just 1 layer of coconut walls, and the richer family, they use double, but by coconut. Okay, and here's the view from the top with the real photos I took from the museum and the on-site survey. And here's the, how to say, the grammar I systematized when I observed the plan and the section and the space of the Khmer community. Basically, they have the basic module, and here it's better to move here. And they extend 1 small part in the right hand or left or at the back. Here's the same, the 2nd and 3 compartment are the same structure of the grammar. Okay, to conclude, the Khmer is the first immigrants to the Mekong, and they choose to settle in the coastal land, and they use the coconut materials to build the house. But the house is simple in structure and even the spatial layout. And the housing typology is limited um, because most of them is poor farmers. And as you know, when the Khmer Kingdom spread their impact to the Mekong, uh, almost the people who come to Mekong is not belong to the feudal or royal, but most of them are farmers, so that they cannot build a good format and to build architecture in this area, and easy to occupy by the Vietnamese later. And the next group is the Vietnamese. This is the largest group in the Mekong, occupy more than 95%, 92% of the population in the Mekong Delta. And here the section I cut through Tiền Giang province, as you know. The Vietnamese come here in the early of the 17th century under the reign of Lord Nguyễn Phúc Nguyên. And now the Vietnamese livelihood is closer to water. They do a lot with rice field and even the fishing. And Vietnamese people follow Mahayana Buddhism in this area. And here's the typical formation. Here's the map. I draw very simple in Tiền Giang province, near Mỹ Tho. And then you see they settle with the position of the market in the between, in the central, and the urban spread out. And below is the Rajah market, is another research from my professor, and here the market, and then through the time the urban is spread, and the market always occupy an important position in the urban formation. And regarding to the housing typology, the Vietnamese group have a very complicated structure. First, they also have a basic module, and then they split into 5 and 7. They call Nhà Ba Gian, or 3 compartment. And they have other transformation on the left, on the right, and the back. Okay, and it is a drawing of a typical 3-compartment Vietnamese house. And you see here they have a veranda. But in the front of the house, they have a very small outdoor enter here. But they also have the inner enter. It's bigger, and the bedroom, the back side, and the kitchen storage, agriculture storage, and the back. And one of the important elements in Vietnamese architecture is the verandas, because they spread the openness. And here in the veranda, the people in the house connect with the neighbor and the society. But this veranda will be used in the contrast way for the Cham Muslim I will present later. And here is the real photos of the typical Vietnamese house. And as you see here, the grammar and the structure of the housing formation is really complicated, because they have 3, 5, and 7 spans. And even they add some courtyard in the between. Okay. And for conclusion for this group is that this group is come to America at the 2nd position, and they follow Mahayana Buddhism and even Taoism. And the housing typology includes 3, 5, and 7 compartments with a symmetrical structure. And the next group is the ethnic Chinese. In this section, I cut through Hà Tiên. Hà Tiên is, you know, in the map they belong to the west side of the Mekong. And as I said, the Chinese immigrated to Mekong many times. The first from 1671 and then the 1679 in Biên Hòa, and then here in the Mekong in Hà Tiên. Um, they scatter surround a market because the purpose of them is always focused in business. They are really rare to do for agriculture, but then later they do agriculture in the other province. And the modules of the Chinese rural house is not very complicated. It's few. Basically, they're similar with the Vietnamese style, but they add one more style name we call townhouse here. It is a long shape with a short facade, short dimension of facade. Have the shop in the first floor, in the ground floor, and the kitchen and the storage in the back. And they put the enter and bedroom in the second floor. Here's typical three-compartment Chinese house in the Mekong. Basically, they have the same spatial formation, but they investigate a lot for the living room with the very beautiful here tile with the many pattern. And the kitchen and the storage is normally not investigated too much, and the family mainly they stay here. And some of interesting informative from my Chinese friend, they say, I don't know because I'm not Chinese, but when I see the kanji, the Chinese character on the enter, when my friend said, if they write the kanji is this word, is the shin in Japanese, chan in Chinese is the god, so that the house will, the house owner with the farmer, because they have the connect to the nature. But the kanji, this Chinese character changed to the family character and to in Chinese. I don't know, and most of them do business for commercial. But interesting when we can understand some character from Chinese, and we can predict the job and the career of the people who live inside. And here is the section of a typical shop house in Hà Tiên. This is not, you cannot find this in the reality because these are the general points I integrate from many shop house remaining now because they destroy and rebuild a lot. So that, but I based on the many evidence to reduce this photo and help in the future some guys can continue to modeling it, and it is very helpful to understand the Chinese architecture in the Southeast Asia. And here's the real photo of the typical Chinese shop house in Hà Tiên. You see here they use the ground floor for a business, and the kitchen and the dining room in the back with the enter in the upper floor, and the bedroom at the back side with a courtyard in the between. And here the formation is simpler than the Vietnamese. Okay, so because the time is just 15 minutes, so we will go very quick. Sorry for this inconvenience. And the main part of today's presentation is the Cham Muslim. Here the section in the Châu Đốc, in the between Cambodia and Mekong. And this was the brief history. The Cham Muslim moved from the Champa Kingdom to the Khmer in the 15th century, and here they converted to Islamic, and because they are not Muslim but Brahminism in the Phan Rang area, but then they changed their regions here in the Cambodia, and the Cham refugees moved to Sunni Islam by the Malaysian Muslim in Cambodia, and in the war between the Vietnam and Cambodia, they moved many places, not only in Vietnam, but in China, I know, as I know, Thailand, even in Indonesia also have the group of Cham Muslim, I think. Um, but in Vietnam, they mainly settle in Châu Đốc area. Okay. Okay. Some interesting conclusion for this group is they are not an indigenous group, but they are immigration group, were refugees from Cambodia, and there's only one group in the Vietnamese ethnic group. It follow Islamic, and about the livelihood, they not focus in farming or fishing, but they do the trading and quite flexible in movement, and that's why they can exist in the history. And here's the formation of the village of Châu Giang, include a mosque in the middle and the housing scattered cemetery with the mosque in the between. And the village structure included the called Palais named village, and with the mosque in the between, and sometimes they add the shurao, is a small temple when the population is grow up. And he did structure of a Cham Muslim village in Vietnam. They have a village chief, the deputy head, and smaller position. Later we can use this information for discussion, but I think I will move here. It's very interesting. He's in 9 villages I collect when I do the on-site survey in the Châu Đốc. Here's in the Châu Đốc city, and the 9 villages of the Cham Muslims spread out from 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and number 9 is far because they disappear because the war with Pol Pot with Cambodia in 1972 and to 79. And in fact, the research in this area is really difficult because the lack of a document. And I have to base on the maps, the ancient maps, and some paper, the books, and especially the book of Philip Taylor. His book, it really helped me to identify, to realize many aspects of the Cham Muslim culture in the Mekong. And here's, before I do survey, I mark many places on the map from the French, I think in 1902. And then on the book, this is the book of Philip Taylor, Cosmopolitan Periphery of Philip in 2007. He just draw the map like this. It's no, with the distance, it's not exactly. And here's the map of the other guys in 1974, Nguyễn Văn Luận. And based on this, I organized a field work, include students from Japan, Spain, and Philippines, also Vietnamese. We divide in many groups and collect the data in many years. And I think the field work is really helpful for education because the students learn a lot, not just stay on the class and see the PowerPoint, but they move outside and in the heavy rain or the harsh sunlight, they draw, and that all of the students told me they feel that have very meaningful in their education life. And here's the Google map of the 9 Cham village. It's quite complicated. And I based on the population chart from the government. And I will show very quickly because if I show this, it will take more than 1 hour. Here, the first is which shows that is have the longest history of the Mekong. and have many clusters. And the next is Nhân Hội in the north of the Mekong. They have two groups with the mosque in the between and the surround here. Here is also the Khánh Hòa. And you see here all of the 9 villages have the same grammar. You will see, we recognize until number 3, the mosque in the between and the housing spread symmetry. Is the village of Chao Phong the most complicated village. They have many old and new settlements. Okay, it's the village of Vĩnh Trường, number 5. They have their own settlement near the river, and the new settlement in the north, because the population increased and the Vietnamese government give them an empty space, and they build a new area, but they also keep the mosque, a small mosque here, not exactly in the between, but sometime in here. And this the village of Da Phước. That's the village that the many tourists, foreign tourists, come to the Mekong and go to this village to buy some silk or traditional products. And the structure are quite clear because the mosque in the between, and the way the house connect to the water is quite clear. This is very small settlement, small village. And in fact, you cannot find this picture anymore because they rebuild it and they upgrade. Every time I follow a Facebook of the chef and the villager, and they upload the picture that all of the mosques they will upgrade. And that is, I feel pity because they try to copy the image of the mosque from the Middle East, but they lost the characteristic of the tropical humid climate at the original. Here's the Vĩnh Hành. Vĩnh Hành is the longest distance of 2 kilometers. So, and here is the map of more than 2,000 houses I collect in 3 years for my PhD. In fact, they have the sound of the Quran. Yesterday, when I come to the airport, the first sound I see when I go out is the Quran. I don't know, because I'm not Islamic, but it makes me feel today will be very meaningful for me for this presentation. But I found one very interesting point, and that it is one of the main part of my PhD is I recognize the issue of acoustics relevant to the formation and the length of the village. I will see here. Because one day I stay in my laboratory and I use my very own compass. I'm a very old-fashioned guy. I always use the pencil and compass, and I make many circles. And I recognize that one rule is very interesting. The most in the center, and the periphery is the radius is 220 meters. Is quite exactly the distance of the village. And I use a formula of a German guys this to recalculate everything, to check it. And this is a map of the Chao Phong. You see here with the central point is the mosque, and the circle is really beautiful and make a pattern based on sound. And here's on the calculation for the how the acoustic shape, the format of the village. Okay, and here is the housing of the Cham Muslim in the Mekong. And I record 1,988 housing, and here you see here is the original, they call Sang house with no veranda at the front, and later all of the houses have this with the veranda. There's the assimilation, or they learn from the Vietnamese architecture. Okay. And the shape is two types of the roof types. And here is the original structure, and with the extension and the bathroom and toilet add later, because you see the difference of the material and structure. Okay, here's the classification of 151 traditional housing, and I can have here is the main classification. I based on the spatial 3 span 4 5 6. Here is a veranda, is no veranda, and you see here the general type is 3 or 4 span in the horizontal axis. This is the structure, and this is the image of the people, the Cham Muslim people in daily activities. Like when they prepare food, having lunch, and do the praying activities, and the way they survive in the flood area in the Mekong in the rainy season. Here's a drawing you see here, very clear. They separate the space for male. Here the space for female, and the male and the kid, when he older than 12 years old, he will live with uncles and father here in the living room, and the woman, the wife and woman, live in the back, and the kitchen in the back side. And this the veranda they call kanyan. They add later, because you see the structure of the wood is smaller. Here the wood is bigger, and one of the interesting point is the wooden material in Mekong. Most of them imported from the Cambodia in the rainy season, because in the Mekong we don't have such kind of big wood like this. We're all very small, so that quite rare to build a wooden house in Mekong in the current time. And here the spatial organization according to lifestyle. And I don't know, because I'm not Islamic, but I feel the way they use the carpet, and when they spread the carpet on the floor, even on the boat or outside, they make a very sharp place, because they oriented the axis to the or I forget, in the southeast, in the Middle East, the Mecca. And when they spread the space, they feel that is more mosque, and that one of the reasons they can survive in the war, the time of the war, and even in the communist era, and for the formation of the principle I found in the Cham Muslim house is they divide public zone and private zone. Even within the house, it's for male and it's for female family, and they keep the privacy, many layer of privacy. Here's the veranda. As I said before, the Vietnamese use the veranda for openness, but in the Cham Muslim, they use the veranda for closeness. When I take a photo, all of them close the curtain, and they avoid people to occupy the privacy. And here they keep the balance by symmetry from the front to the interior of the house. And all of the house is quite unity, because although the rich and the poor are the same housing space. Here's the difference between the Cham Muslim house and the Vietnamese. Okay, I will move fast. This is the primary point, that to keep the way they can keep architecture is based on they keep this core when they build a new house. So I think so. To conclusion, I think I hope my presentation today can give you some information to understand the ADN of the architecture, the vernacular architecture in the Mekong, and how we can preserve the original architecture in the very crazy urbanization now. Okay, thank you very much for your listening.